Hey everyone, welcome back to another tier list. This time we're going to be doing Investigations 2, or rather Ace Attorney Investigations, or Prosecutor's Path, I guess, Miles Edgeworth 2, something like that. I don't know. This game has quite an interesting reputation because I feel like a lot of the diehard fans would say this is a pretty solid game. I know that there's some detractors on the internet, whether or not they're from JelloApocalypse or just your own volition. I think that this game is super interesting. It's done a lot of things that I think Ace Attorney I wish Ace Attorney did more of. They don't really revisit some of the things that they go through in this game. Dare I say, this could be one of the best games. I think it's underneath Trials and Tribulations and The Great Ace Attorney 2, but I still think it's up there. I think this game has a lot of things going for it, a lot more than what some people would state. And, you know, with that in mind, I think the strongest part, if you don't like the plot, if you don't like the length of the game, that's whatever, that's your own opinion, but I personally think that something that we can all agree on is that the characters are at least very interesting. Now, whether or not you like them, that's on you, but at least they have a plethora of characters. I can't say the same for Apollo Justice or Investigations 1, but Investigations 2 really hits it out of the park with the characters. There's a lot of returning characters, which again, I was kind of, negative about in the previous tier list, but at the same time, I think that because this was the 10th anniversary game, and the length of this game, which, by the way, I think is justified. I think there's some games that aren't justified with the length, Danganronpa being one of them, but Investigations 2, it's a long game, and I think it's justifiable, because the story is so grand, and every case really matters in the long run. I think, there's some things that could still be cut shorter, but, a 30-hour game versus, like, a 28-hour game isn't that much of a difference. I think that the range of length is appropriate. I'm not complaining about that. Whereas Danganronpa, I think you could cut out like 5-6 hours and it'd be fine. But here you could probably cut out like 1 or 2 hours and it'd be okay. Anyway, yeah, as I said, the characters are very, very good. Some of them are not as good, but let's get ranking. So I'm gonna save the mains. I'm gonna call these 5, 6, 7, 8 the mains for now. It'll go from here. The supporting, minor, whatever you want to call them. So right off the bat, we're gonna start off with Dijin Huang or something like that. Right off the bat, I don't know his name. Yeah, spoiler alert, he's an imposter. He's not the actual Dijin Huang. And I think that we only see him in case 1, and then he dies at the end of case 5. And I think that seeing this powerful president guy be kind of a wimp is, it has layers, because you get Shilong Lang's country of Zhangfa. Now, obviously, Shilong Lang doesn't really appear in this game. He appears for like a few seconds in the second case, and then he has a supporting role in the last case. But it's interesting to see that he's and they don't really bring this up, but he's like the damage control for the smuggling ring with Crocus Alba, right? Like, this takes place like a few weeks after Investigations 1, and it feels weird because thematically these games feel so different, right? It feels like this game is actually good. So Dijin Huang, he has this like body double imposter twist, but we really only find out once he's already dead. And I think some games do this a bit better, because, by the time we find out, he's already long dead, and it's like, it is an interesting plot that he is one of the 3 main bad guys that, spoiler alert, the mastermind, Simon Keys, wants to take down. He wants to take down Patricia Rowland, Blaze DeBest, and the Body Double. Now, I'm just kind of recapping the plot here, but I think that, considering the fact that we only really see him in the first case, and he's only brought up again at the end of the last case, and, we find out he's just kind of a jerk, I think that, for what it's worth, he is written as a very interesting roadblock in the story. He's not the actual murderer, but you can tell that things are, going on behind the scenes, because he's, like, this cool president who's really just a big wimp, and you find out the mysteries behind it, and then he dies at the end of the fifth case. It really ties everything together. I'm gonna put him in B. Like, I don't think that anyone, like, really cares about this guy, but just the way that he's written is that you're not supposed to care about him. He's a victim at the end of the day, and he's just a jerk, and he's not meant to be sympathizable or anything like that. But, I mean, for what it's worth, he's an interesting roadblock. I do have problems with characters or just plot points, but I don't think he's a plot point. I think he's an actual bit of commentary over presidential thingies. I don't really have a lot to say about this guy. I'm just rambling for no reason. Next up, we have Shelly the Killer, and I think Shelly the Killer in this game is interesting because when he first appears in Justice for All, he parallels Phoenix, as in he is someone who will always do what's best for his client, so it creates this interesting dynamic. Shelly the Killer in this game doesn't really have that dynamic with Edgeworth, but I guess he doesn't have to be. We just know him as this awesome, badass serial killer, or I guess assassin, hired assassin from the previous games, and he's back. He's the one guy we didn't catch, and now he's back for in action, and he's really like, I'd say he's not like openly hostile to Edgeworth. He's not like threatening or kidnapping him this time around, you know, or anyone that he likes, but he's there to serve justice to the main bad guy. And you know, what's interesting is that Shelly the Killer really is the big reason why Simon Keyes goes down, right? Because of Shelly the Killer, he kind of saves the day from what's his name again? Seren Dogan. And I think that having this guy that we know is guilty creates a lot of dramatic irony, because Edgeworth, you know, weirdly enough, doesn't know who he is, and I know that's a lot of people find that stupid, but it's like whatever, it's whatever. Just, like it's a plot hole, but it's like it's a stupid one, okay? Just like it's for the sake of the story, so I'll give it a pass. But it creates this dramatic irony where it's like they don't know who Shelly the Killer is, but you know who he is, and so eventually when it's revealed, when the characters are caught up to speed, it's like, oh my god. And then, you know, he kidnaps Horace Knightley, and he just gives like a lot of cryptic hints at the beginning of the game that only make sense by the end of the game. And I think that having a returning character, him being the first returning character other than Edgeworth, Gumshoe, and Kay, really sets the stage, right? Of like, oh wow, this time around the returning characters are actually going to have a bigger part in the story, or even just the characters they use will have a more pivotal role than, you know, let's say Mike Meekins in last game where he does nothing, basically. Or Emma Skye, where she also does nothing. Well, I guess Emma Skye also does nothing in this game, but the point remains, very effective use of a returning character, using what the player knows versus what the characters know, and just him being kind of on our side, even though he's very cryptic about it, is very, like, I don't know, it just creates this big mystery, and I feel like a lot of our memories of Justice for All, of that final case, Farewell My Turnabout, kind of live on through Shelly the Killer in this game, where it's like he effectively serves a very similar niche, where you know, he was hired and the main bad guy is like this big twist, right? So I don't know, Shelly the Killer, I'm gonna put him in S, honestly, right? Like right off the bat, we have a supporting character, or I guess just maybe not a supporting character, but like a non-main character, already in S tier. You know, right off the bat, this game is amazing. Nicole Swift is just a lot of Heart 2.0, and it's weird because a lot of Heart is also in this game, and they kind of feud a bit. I guess she's kind of supposed to be a red herring, but it doesn't really work because it's like you know, we're given the clues that the mastermind is a man, so it's like it's obviously not, you know, Nicole Swift, and maybe, you know, maybe she had, you know, a gender change, but like, you know, that's probably not going to be the case in a Japanese game in 2010. Maybe she's disguised as a man. I don't know. But I feel like she's supposed to be red herring, but it just doesn't work out. And, you know, in that first case, maybe, you know, it's like, oh, Nicole Swift is, you know, the first witness we see, so she's gonna be the culprit, but it's revealed that Shelly the Killer's here, and Horace Knightley's here, and the President's here, so it really throws things for a loop, which I do appreciate, but her as a character, it's just like, I don't know, like, I feel like she tries to fill the red herring role 2 separate times, but it just doesn't work. It's like, you would need to be really gullible to really buy into it, and maybe you can buy into it, like, in the first, like, 30 minutes of the game, when she's the only character there, but it's like, I don't know, it just, I don't know, I like how she adds more characters, and I think one thing that I appreciate about the amount of characters, not just for as a voice actor, where there are more voices to give, you know, and we can have a bigger party of people playing the game together, because there's so many characters, is that it just adds a lot of intrigue, like, who is the bad guy? Who is the mastermind? You know, just by filling out slots, it just creates this bigger mystery, because like, if it was just like 3-4 people, then it's like, you could suss it out really quickly, but just by having this plethora of characters, it just adds a lot. So, I mean, like, you know, it's a red herring character again, and she doesn't have a lot of depth, so I'm gonna put her in D, because like, she's not offensive or anything, she's not annoying, she's just unnecessary. Next up, we have Horace Knightley, who I think is one of the best first case culprits there is. He's also one of the first ever culprits to die in the very next case. You know, well, no, first culprit to die, not only does he die, it's in the very next case. Like, him dying in the next case is not that unique, but, you know, he dies. And it turns out that he's one of the most important pieces in this game. Like, he's Simon Keyes' best friend, he's Isaac Dover's son, yada yada yada, all this important plot stuff. And like, we don't really get that until the Great Ace Attorney, where a very early victim turns out to be extremely important in the long run. But this guy dare I say, Horace Knightley is more important than the victim in The Great Ace Attorney. Horace Knightley is super important to the narrative, and not only that, he's actually a very smart Case 1 villain. Like, he's genuinely competent. There are a lot of, like, fake outs where you think you're gonna get him, but you actually don't. You know, and he's just badass with the way he twirls the gun and stuff like that. And, like, when he dies, you actually do feel a bit of sadness, because you're like, oh man, he was so cool, I wish he stayed. But yeah, no, Horace Knightley, he somehow manages to be an amazing Case 1 bad guy, and then somehow manages to still be relevant throughout the rest of the game. So that's, like, that's amazing. I think, like, in terms of the story, he really does set the stage for the rest of the culprits in this game that are, like, super memorable and sneaky and just downright evil, but, like, very, what I would consider, very well written. Now, yes, all the cases are a lot longer than they should be, as I previously mentioned, but I mean, like, again, I think it's justified just considering how grand of a scale the game truly is. Horace Knightley, I'm gonna put Horace Knightley in A. Super fun character, super depth. You know what? I'm actually gonna put Horace Knightley in S. Because, like, I was gonna say that the biggest problem is his lack of screen time, but that's kind of the point, because he does die at the beginning of Case 2. So it's like, yeah, he doesn't get a lot of screen time, but that's kind of the point. So, yeah, no, I mean, like, you want more from him. You're not gonna get more from him because he's dead. But, he leaves such an impact that when he dies, it's such a massive shock, and it's like, oh man. And just because the point of his character is to die early does not mean he's a bad character that could have had more potential. I think that was his potential. He was meant to serve as the starter villain to set the stage. You know, he's Simon Key's best friend, and it just, I don't know, he serves that niche really, really goddamn well. Next up, we have Frank. No, that's not Frank Sod. That's J. Elbert, and I think J. Elbert is one of the reasons why Case 2 is the most disliked. I feel like everyone can agree that Case 2 is the least good and the most padded out and the most, like, draggy. And I think a lot of it is because, again, you have what I would consider 4 or even 5 red herrings. You have J. Elbert, you have Frank Sawit, you have Patricia Rowland, who is the actual culprit. You have Sir Dogan, and I guess you could consider Simon Keyes. Maybe you don't trust him. You expect him to mat on guard. And he does mat on guard, but he does it at Case 5, not Case 2. And, like, that's what I like in these games, is when you have a lot of characters to pin the blame on. But I feel like in this game, like, you just kind of go through the motions. In Case 2, it's kind of like, oh, here's J. Elbert. Oh, here's Frank Sawit. Oh, here's Simon Keyes. Oh, here's Sir Dogan. Oh, here's the Warden. And it's just like, you know, I guess it could be either one of them, but thematically it makes more sense if it's the Warden and not the actual prisoners, right? That's a plot twist. Yeah, he digs a hole, which is helpful because, I mean, that brings the plot forward, but I feel like you could have realistically cut him and or Frank Sawit out, and the case would just be the same. Like, it didn't need to be that long. I feel like they wanted to have a witness character, but they also wanted to have a returning character in Frank Sawit, so they added both. And I feel like you could have just had one of them be the same, right? And, like, it does make the prison feel more lived in, which I do appreciate, is that it does make the world feel, like, dynamic, like there's things going outside of Edgeworth's storyline. You know, and yeah, the whole thing with Shelley the Killer and Horace Knightley do the same thing, which is why I put them in S. Another reason why I put them in S. But, I don't know, J. Elbert, he's just supposed to be gimmicky, which is fine, but, like, in a game like this, it really sticks out like a sore thumb. I'm gonna give him D. Again, I'm gonna put him below Nicole, because at least Nicole can have some sus moments. I feel like, you just know that he's just a gimmicky prisoner. He has a minor crime where he digs underneath the jail, and then that's about it. That's the last time he's relevant. Also, he has a cute dog, which is nice. He also disguises himself as a police guard, which is, like, kind of interesting, but, like, I don't know. I feel like there are way too many subplots in the second case, in the in-prison turnabout, for my liking. Like, I feel like you could cut one of them out, and it would have been the same, except shorter, and maybe people would have been like, you know what? Case 2, even though it's not as interesting, it's at least not as long as it could have been. So yeah, he goes in D. Frank Sawit as well. I'm gonna put Frank Sawit next to J. Elbert. I'm gonna put him above J. Elbert, but below Nicole Swift, because I think that seeing the very first villain in the series, because this was the 10th anniversary, is pretty nice. It's a nice, like, oh, hey, I remember that guy moment, and he genuinely does, you know, throw the wig again, which is funny. He he is Patricia Rowland's accomplice, and, like, because of that, you can have a bit of an interesting interaction where it's like, yeah, this is a previous guy and he's in the jail, and that's interesting. J. Elbert, he's just kind of there, but Frank Saw It is like, you know, because we know what he did, it's nice to see a culprit, even though he's a very unimportant culprit. It's nice to see him again, and it's nice to see that he's, you know, yeah, at first he's getting better, and then you realize, oh no, he did another crime, so he's probably gonna stay there longer. So it's like he didn't really learn his lesson. But yeah, no, Frank Saw It. Not much to say. He has a logic chess moment, and it's nice to see him, but it's like, I don't know. Like, I feel like him and J. Albert could be the same character. They just wanted to have both a returning character and a new character. Next up, we have Simon Keyes, and this is, like, we're kind of jumping forward in terms of the plot. We already did that when we talked about Shelley the Killer and Horace Knightley, but now we're really jumping forward. Simon Keyes is the main villain of the game. He is the defendant in the first case, because I guess he goofs up or something, and they suspect it's him, and it turns out it actually, like, he didn't murder Horace Knightley, but he is the mastermind behind everything else in this game. Pretty much everything else except for Case 3, which is its own separate thing. And I think that Simon Keyes really is one of the best Ace Attorney villains. Definitely one of the best twists. The fact that, you know, we have this whole... This is the first and only time I think the game has a genuine, like, whodunit moment. I know there are a few in the other games, but this is the first time where it's like a culmination of the entire game. You know there's a mastermind, and you have to find out who it is, and this is like the most shocking reveal, I would say. Just like, not because he's a character that you care about or is even like relevant to most of the story, but just because it's like, it makes sense. Like, it ties everything together in a really genius and surprising way that I don't think they ever do again, sadly. Where it's like, oh wow, that is the bad guy. That ties everything together. I don't know, and it's like he has such a clever design where it's like he could look like a silly, goofy clown, or he could be this scary Joker figure, where it's like he wants revenge over the 3 people that did him wrong, and at the end of the day, you can kind of sympathize with him because like he really was screwed over in life. His dad was an awful human being who's also a murderer. You know, he got screwed over by all these people. In fact, the only person that was nice to him is like an assassin. So it's like, oh my gosh, this poor guy, he's got really no one to look forward to, and all he wants is revenge. And sure, you don't agree with it, but you can sympathize. You'd be like, oh man, this poor motherfucker, he got so screwed over in life. And I don't know, I think that he is a very, very well-written villain. One of the best, if not the best, in the entire series. It's a shame that he's in this game that was never translated or localized in English. But yeah, I don't know, like, the fact that he exists and we have a character with such a massive impact on the plot, and we don't find out about it until pretty much the end of the game, and then we have this admittedly, like, you know, lengthy takedown, but just a moment where he really lays down everything wrong he did. It's magical. It's a magical moment when it happens, and I think it might be one of the most, like, god damn, this writing is good moments in this game that's just filled with so many amazing moments. So I'm gonna put him here. I'm gonna put him as my favorite character thus far in the game. Next up, we have Patricia Rowland, and, you know, after all gushing about Simon, I think Patricia Rowland kind of gets the short end of the stick here. I think that, you know, the body double is supposed to be a victim. He's supposed to be, like, oh, he's kind of threatening, but he dies, so it's whatever. Blaze the Best is supposed to be this overarching, maybe not overarching, but this, like, just full-on monster of a character, who's, like, absolutely terrifying. He just has all the control of the world, whereas Patricia Rowland really has not a lot of agency. Like, she runs the prison, and I think she also ran the orphanage, but it's like, you know, she's the most forgettable of all the villains, I think. Where it's like she's a warden, but that doesn't really go anywhere other than she's like kind of corrupt, and she does end up killing Knightley. But it's like she just kind of feels like a plot device in her appearances. I feel like her personality of being like prim and proper, you get like barely any of that. Like, it's there, but it's barely there. You don't really remember her other than maybe she has like ferrets as clothes. So I don't know. I think out of all the evil characters, she's definitely the weak spot. Out of all the, like, I gush about the characters, but she's just kind of like meh. She's not that deep. And like, I'm not gonna pretend that Blaze the Best is the deepest character ever, but at least he's in such a position of power, and his dynamics with Sebastian is like heartbreakingly abusive. That it's like, goddamn, he is a well-written. Okay, maybe not well-written. He's a simple, well-written villain, I guess, is the fair way to say it. Because there's not a lot to do. Whereas Patricia Rowland is like simple and just like barely written. So yeah, I don't have many nice things to say. She's the most whatever out of all of it. I'm gonna put her in C, because like I get that you probably want to, because of all the characters are so complex and important and crucial to the plot, you kind of need one that's just like, yeah, whatever. But I mean, I don't know. You could have done, well, you could have done like maybe 10 to 20% more to her, to make her stand out. Next up, we have Regina Barry. Regina Barry's whatever. Like, she's just there. Again, it's a returning character for the sake of having a returning character. At least, like, she's not actively taking up a slot, because, like, the Imprisoned Turnabout already has a lot of characters to suspect. So she's not, like, taking up a culprit slot. She's just there. And it is, again, it's the Emma Skye effect from Investigations 1. It's nice to see her better talk about. I think she talked about, like, Mo is now, like, the ringleader, and now, like, he's her parental figure. So that's nice. But yeah, no, I mean, Regina, she's whatever. It's nice to have her back, I guess, if you like her. And like, she's like slightly more mature than before. And again, she has strong ties to the actual mastermind, Simon Keyes. Like, her and Simon Keyes are always together. So it's like, it's very interesting that the circus is so goddamn corrupt. It's actually amazing how the Very Big Circus comes back in this case, and it's like, it's the main setting for the villain. That's so, oh my gosh, that's so weird to think about, considering how much everyone hates Big Top. But I don't know, like, I can't be too offended by Regina Barry, because she doesn't do anything, but she's not, like, actively hurting the story. So again, I'm gonna put her in D. I'm gonna put her above J. Albert, because it's like she's a non-entity, but it's like a fine non-entity. It's not hurting anyone. Finally, we have Soren Dogen. I think Soren Dogen is not as good as people make him out to be. I love him. I think that he's cool because he's blind and he has a dog, but like, it's whatever. It's like Soren Dogen is supposed to be this, I guess, maybe not foil, but supposed to be this opposing force to Shelley the Killer, where they're both like assassins, and they're both honorable, and they're both like red herrings because they're not actually the murderers in either their cases. But I think like when you first meet him, he's cool and he has this backstory with Edgeworth that you never even really find out. Like, Edgeworth prosecuted him, but Soren Dogen and Edgeworth don't really have a lot to talk about. It's never even. I thought they would bring it up, like, oh yes, yes, Mr. Edgeworth, you prosecuted me and you used illegal evidence or anything like that. Actually, yeah, the fact that we have an entire case in a jail cell could have been used for, like, maybe an innocent person that Edgeworth prosecuted when Edgeworth was corrupt. That could have been interesting. But yeah, no, Soren Dogen, he feels more like someone to get from point A to point B, but they do give him some flavoring. I will give it that. They do give him a lot of flavoring, where he's like a assassin, he's blind, he has a dog, etc., etc. He has chess pieces, and people suspect him because, he's this big opposing force. Like, Patricia Rowland kills Horace Knightley out of fear for this guy. Like, he doesn't do anything. In fact, he's framed to do things. In fact, Simon Keyes kind of frames him as, like, this guy who's rounding up henchmen, but really, he's not doing anything. He's just in jail and blind. I don't know how he escapes. I think he escaped through, like, J. Albert's tunnel or something like that. But, and he's kind of like this big, mafia guy, not mafia guy, he's like the big leader in the prison where everyone kind of looks up to him, and he forces the warden to do what he wants because, he's scary. He's the big scary guy. So, I don't know. And I like how, even though he's an assassin, he is, like, he doesn't kill anyone in the plot of the game. Like, he kills the actual president, but other than that, and he kind of gets screwed over by the trio, by Blaise DeBest, Patricia Rowland, and the Imposter. They kind of screw him over. But he's saved by Simon Keyes again, and so he's kind of like this fatherly figure. And I think that the fact that the two assassins in the game, even though they are murderers, they both have like depth to their characters. It's just, I feel like Soren Dogen's is like, it's good, but it's not S tier good. Like, I like Soren Dogen. I'm gonna put him in a high B tier, and I think what's preventing him from being A tier is that, like, we know that his actions are very interesting, but it's just, I feel like they could have gone a bit farther with him. Now I also feel like they could have gone, a lot less far with him. I feel like we're in a timeline where Sarandogan is developed a lot better than a one-dimensional character, and I do like that. But I feel like they could have again, just like Patricia Rowland, they could have done a little bit more. Maybe flesh out his experiences with Edgeworth. Maybe talk about how he chooses to do things, whatever. Because like we have Shelly the Killer, and we understand him from the previous game. Sarandogan is new to this game, and I feel like we get a lot less of Dogan than we get Shelly the Killer. So yeah. So that's the first two cases of the series. My gosh, this is gonna take. I realized just how long I was recording for. It was like 25 minutes at that point. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, let's continue. So next up we have Jeff Master, and he's the defendant of this case. And I will say that even though that he kind of conceals a cure for taste, I don't think that was like meant to be the intention of the writer. I think like, yeah, it's kind of selfish. He holds it, but that's not like the way his character's written. I think that's just kind of a bonus that you can get when you think about it like a little more under the surface. I don't think it was authorial intent to make that look selfish. Now, that being said, I think that, defendants are interesting because you always have to make them sympathetic. I feel like the cases that are really popular are where you somewhat care or empathize or just think that the defendant is a cool character. I think that Apollo Justice kind of goofs that off, which might be why the game isn't as well liked, other than the first case. Because maybe the defendants are a lot less cooperative or helpful or even memorable. I think Jeff Master is maybe not memorable. I feel like you could probably not remember him, but the fact that he's the singing chef guy who, his hair turns like white because he is stressed out and doesn't have chocolate or something like that, and he's Edgeworth's dad's final defendant, and because Manfred von Karma killed him, Gregory Edgeworth doesn't get to do anything with it. I just realized I don't think Gregory Edgeworth is in this. I don't think he's here. Oh well. But yeah, no, I think that Jeff Master, he is a character that really makes it clear that that he is the defendant of the case, and you are supposed to care about him, and you do care about him because it does work out. And he has this contest, and it's very quirky. It's a very quirky dynamic with his adoptive daughter as well, where you can tell he's just a good guy. And they actually switch places where she goes to jail, but he's free, and he promises to wait for her or something like that. And I mean, I don't know. It's not that deep, but it's just very like, yeah, he's a good guy. He's empathizable. I do like him. I wish that I wish he did more, because in that case, I mean, to be fair, that case is super bloated with characters, so I feel like he's kind of to the wayside. But for going from Edgeworth's legacy to Gregory Edgeworth, it's just a super nice way to really pass on from father to son. So I'm gonna put Jeff Master in. I'm gonna put him above the president, but beneath Sarandogan. I think that's where he belongs. Now Gregory Edgeworth is not on this tier list, so I'm just gonna retroactively add him. Let's I don't know. How do I do this? I don't know. Why is he not on this tier list? Oh well. I think Gregory Edgeworth is kind of boring, honestly. I think it's nice to get to play as him, but he's not that interesting. Like, it's nice to see he cares about his son for a few lines. It's like dramatic irony because we know he dies like in a few days from when this is taking place. We know he's never going to solve the mystery, but it's nice to see his interactions with Young Ray and Detective Bad and even Manfred von Karma. I would put him in B. Like, I think he's okay. It's nice to see him, but he himself, we don't learn a lot about him. He's just very stoic, and because of that, it's like you get small amounts of detail, which is nice if you're looking for it. But it's like it's a cool moment, but the character itself is okay. Like he's just I would argue that he's better than Edgeworth in Investigations 1, because at least he is involved in the story. But yeah, I'd put him in B tier. So pretend Gregory Edgeworth is here, and I put him around I put him above Sarandogan. Anyway, moving on, Detective Bad. And I like Detective Bad. I liked him in Game 1. Here, he has less to do because he's not part of the Yatagarasu. He's not even part of the present timeline. He's been the past timeline. It's nice to see him as a chiseled detective, especially because there's a bit of dramatic irony where you know he's the Yatagarasu, but that's not super relevant because he's not, like, actively trying to screw anyone over. I think he's actually trying to help Jeff Master because Jeff Master is innocent. But, with all that in mind, he does not do anything. He's consistent with his past self, but he doesn't really do anything other than be the detective for the time period. And he does have nice banter with young Ray and Gregory Edgeworth, and I guess even Manfred von Karma a little bit. And he's just an overall stand-up guy. It's hard to mess him up, but he does. I don't know. Like I'm gonna put him in A, and I know this is really like this is biased because I just like him from the previous game. But considering that he has a small role to fill in the past timeline of the story, it's just really nice to see him, even though he himself does not get to do much. But you know what? When we do get time with him, you savor every moment because he's so lovable and so fun. And I think he's the closest thing we get to a father figure for Gumshoe in a game that's all about father figures. It's nice to see that even Gumshoe gets a little bit of representation, so that's nice. Next we have Catherine Hall, and I think Catherine Hall is pretty great. I think she's not as I don't know. I like Catherine Hall. I think that her wanting to find the culprit, even if it means sacrificing herself, is very nice. I think that she is kind of a red herring, but also just someone who overall is really cares about Jeff Master and wants to find the culprit and wants to bring justice to everything. So she put matters into her own hands, even if it is, it risks her own position in life, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about her. I feel like I haven't had a lot to say about any of the female characters, but yeah, Catherine Hall is okay, B tier for sure, under Sarandogan. Not more than Jeff Master, just because we do get more time with her and we get to see her interactions with a lot of the other characters, where Jeff Master is mostly in the defendant lobby or whatever. But yeah, no, I mean, for doing a crime and getting away with it, whatever, not getting away with it, but for doing a minor crime of poisoning the area to catch Dane Gustavia, it is like a genuinely solid plan to catch the guy, but obviously it's illegal, so she gets arrested. I don't know. It's nice. It's nice to see a nice another father-child dynamic, because there's a lot of that in this game. There's a lot of that, or I guess parent-child dynamic if you include Courtney. But yeah. Next up, we have Dane Gustavia, who is, my word, like, this guy is an evil bastard. He is, like, just, I don't know. He's so evil. He's Simon Key's dad. He kills Isaac Dover. He is very petty, and, like, he's also kind of stupid. Like, he could have gotten away with it if he just lied about the amount of time he was away from the United States, I guess. If he just lied about his time away in Zhangfa or whatever, he could have gotten away with it. I don't know, I feel like out of all the culprits, he's the most, like, even though Patricia Rowland is the most, like, he's the least character-driven, he is more character-driven, but he's also not as important to the story. I think I like Dane Gustavia, but it's like, I don't know, he's obviously the least important. Like, once he's taken down, it's like, you don't really mention him again, other than in the context of Simon Keyes. So it's like, I don't know. I like him, but, again, I wouldn't blame you if you just don't really remember him. Case 3 is good, but it's good in, like, a less iconic way than why the other cases are good. Like, I think all these cases are very, very, like, 8 out of 10 or higher. Well, maybe not the second case. 7 out of 10 or higher. All these cases are 7 out of 10 or higher, but I feel like in terms of memorability, they're all, like, kind of middling. I feel like they all have aspects of them that are middling. The characters are definitely the most memorable parts, but, yeah. And I think for this one, Dane Gustavia, even though he is fun, it's, like, kind of forgetful fun, if that makes any sense. I will put him... I'll put him down here. But I don't know, because he's not evil for... I'll put him here. He's not evil for evil's sake. Like, he actually is evil because of his taste disorder. He wants, he wants the book, and he'll do anything in his power, and Isaac Dover, and the Sons, and all that stuff. Which, yeah, is very petty. But it's like, in terms of, like, complexity and importance to the story, it's not that much compared to the other villains, if that makes sense. So yeah, B tier, I feel like, again, the B tier character, like, this is good, because unlike Investigations 1, where so many of them were, like, C or lower, a lot of these are B or higher, and I think that's pretty great. Next up, we have Manfred von Karma, and I think Manfred von Karma is kind of unnecessary in the first game, but in this game, because you have that beef with Gregory Edgeworth, and he's like actually like a rival again. He's only like that in the flashback cases because obviously he's in jail in the present day, or even dead, and Gregory Edgeworth is also dead, so there's really no point in bringing Manfred von Karma back, because that plot point was finished in the first Ace Attorney game. But to see him in his prime, and just to see the exact case where he gets the penalty, which is why he kills Gregory Edgeworth, just to have that context is really cool. And I know that in the previous game he was also just there for context, but here, even though the game doesn't want to spoil any of it, because obviously they don't want to reveal the big plot twist in the first game, the first Ace Attorney game, the one with Phoenix Wright, they don't need to go out of their way to show it, but they did, and I think that really adds a lot to the backstory and the lore of Ace Attorney. It adds just so much, and to have Manfred von Karma be, I guess, retconned to be part of like a cupcake case, and have Blaze DeBest be the guy that gave him the penalty, it's just, I don't know, it adds a lot to show that Manfred von Karma is not the most evil guy on the block, and maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe you're like, oh, well, I like Manfred von Karma as the big bad, I don't like how there's someone on top of him, but I guess, you know, that's what David Gant is, right? So having Blaze DeBest, having another person who's on top of Manfred von Karma is not the worst thing in the world. I mean, he's only a prosecutor after all. There's obviously got to be a head of prosecutors and whatnot, and then the head of police, etc., etc. So, I don't know. Manfred von Karma here is, I'm gonna put him in A, because he's just such an evil bastard. I'll put him even up here, actually. And even though, you know, the game doesn't explicitly say what happens to him and Gregory Edgeworth, it's just like, oh damn. It's like, oh damn. Seeing him with the context that the player should know is just like, I don't know, you're in for a ride when you see him. And yeah, again, these two characters are only in the flashbacks, but I mean, they do a lot. They do a lot to contextualize the story and really make it so much more special. Larry's okay. I think this is the most meh Larry appearance. Like, he's not actively messing up, but he's also not helping, and it's just really forgettable. Like, the last game, at the very least, it's like, oh, hey, Edgeworth and Larry, the best friends forever. Here, I don't even think it's mentioned that they're friends or you know, any of the past. He's just Larry Stoneham this time around, which I guess is a throwback to the Bridge to Turnabout. But at the same time, it's like, it just feels so like this is just a random guy. Now, again, I feel like the reason why you can add so many returning characters is because, like, they're not taking up red herring slots this time around because there's so many red herrings, that it's like, it doesn't negatively affect the amount of characters you could suspect to be the culprit. So I think that's why I like him here more than I did in the previous game, where I felt like he kind of took up a slot. Here, I don't think he took up a slot. I think that it's just very funny and interesting that they brought him back. And I think that if you had like a random character, it wouldn't hit as hard. I feel like this is the one time where it's like Larry being here is not a bad thing. Because it's like, if it was a new character, it'd just be a whatever character, but because it's someone we know, it would find annoying. And, you know, I guess this is the 10th anniversary, you kind of do need someone like Larry, though they didn't have Phoenix, so I guess that's weird. But, yeah, no, I'm happy that Larry's here. Now, is he a good character? I don't think so. I'll put him below Roland. It's like, you can't mess up Larry. I'm happy he's here, but he's not that relevant, and I feel like when you think of that case, you probably don't even think of Larry. I feel like he's probably the character you forget about the most. Yeah, I think he's not like useless. He's not useless, but he's not relevant either, if that makes sense. Like, he helps you, but it's like you don't really remember him, so he gets C. And like, yeah, I mean, it's nice because like at this point you've been playing for so long. You know, you've seen Shelly the Killer, you've seen Frank Sod, you've seen Manfred von Karma, so I guess it's. Well, I guess you probably haven't seen Manfred von Karma at this point, but at this point, you just want to see your boy Larry. You just want to see a happy face, and you see Larry, and you get reminded of the good times. This game really thrives on being closure, not just of the first investigations, but of the trilogy as a whole. And this is the last thing we see in the main timeline, other than that one section in Apollo Justice. This is pretty much the last time we see the 2016 to 2019 timeline. And I think that it serves as a pretty solid finale for that point in time in the games. So yeah, Larry Butts, you get low C tier just for being you. Delicia Scones, who's the last character that appears in Case 3. I don't know what there is to say. because I feel like she's kind of a failure of a character. Like she might be the first E tier character. She has a very small role. You don't even really cross-examine her. I don't think. Like when I like rewatched it, I was kind of shocked at how irrelevant she is. She could be like a red herring. She could be kind of creepy. She could at least be maybe helpful, but she's not. She's just there, and like she's the justification for why some of the things are weird, because she's like actually a drug scientist or whatever, and that's why some of the props are weird, and she's kind of a cheater. But it's like, I mean, like it is adding to the crime scene, but it's like it just feels unnecessary, I guess. Like it's like, again, it's red herring, but it doesn't go anywhere, because it's like you're never realistically gonna suspect her, and like you know she does some sketchy stuff, but I don't know. I feel like that's a reason why. Again, I don't think these games are whodunits. They're howdunnits more so, but I don't know. I think that as a character, she is just there, and they could have done a lot better. These characters are like, they're there, and it's like, it's okay, it's fine. But she's like, I feel like they could have done way more with her than they did. Right? She's just, I don't know, meant to freak you out or something. I don't know. You got this little nurse, little chef girl, lady, woman. I don't know. E tier for sure, because at least these characters have some purpose other than the actions they do. Like their characters are incorporated. She's just like, I guess she's like, it's supposed to be funny because it's like in the past and the present she looks pretty much the same, whereas every other character has subtle changes, some more subtle than others. So it's like when you see all these same characters, it's like, wow, this plot or this case is that complex. It's, we get people from the past and people from the present. But she's just, I feel like she's just there to act for the sole purpose of having another character, just for the reason of padding the character count. And it's like whatever. It's like, okay. I can't be too upset, but it's like she's irrelevant. Next up, we have Karen Jensen, I think that's her name. I'm not gonna rank her high either, and I feel bad because like all the female characters have been ranked pretty low. But I don't know. It's like she has this gimmick where her grandma slaps her, or whatever, and then she slaps her grandma, and it's funny. But like I think the grandma is so much more of a character than her, and she doesn't even talk. Like Karen Jensen is so nothing. She's so bland. She delivers the news that Kay is sick, and I guess she kind of is involved with Blaze the Best schemes. But it's like, like I don't know. It's like we don't have motivation for her. We don't know a whole lot about her other than that she's a nurse. Like I wouldn't blame you if you don't even remember she exists. Honestly, like the grandma, I feel like both her and the grandma are both like, in the grand scheme of things, relatively forgetful, but at least the grandma has like the slapstick comedy and is relatively important to Manfred von Karma and Gregory Edgeworth and the whole faked autopsy report. Whereas Karen Jensen herself is just like yeah, she's involved with Blaze the Best's schemes, kind of, but it's like it never feels like she's like an accomplice. It just like, and I won't blame you if you even forgot about that little part of her. I don't know. It's like Karen Jensen's like, I'm gonna put her in E as well. I'm gonna put her above Delisha. I think that she's more important than Delisha, but as an accomplice character, it's like she's a blank slate, and they could have done a lot better. Bonnie Young, at the very least, has stuff to do. And again, she doesn't talk. Karen is her translator, but knowing what she has done is it's show don't tell. But it's like I feel a little more justified in saying that she is at least more funny and more involved. And it's like, yeah, she was, I guess, kind of blackmailed to fake an autopsy report over Isaac Dover or whatever. And yeah, it is kind of like retroactively, because we don't find out about it until like pretty late into Case 4, and then how it relates to Case 3, and then Case 5 has it being somewhat necessary. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm kind of getting the plot confused, but it is quite a complex game, in terms of how long and intricate the story is. But, you know what? I'll put her in low C tier, actually. I'll put her above Larry. I think Bonnie Young is not the most iconic character. You could have given her a bit more of a, one, give her some dialogue. Two, develop her character to be one that, like, you feel bad for or anything. But she's just, like, just kinda there. But, you know what? For having, like, an actual role in the story, I will rank her a little higher. Just a little. No, that's too generous. I'll put her here. I'll put her here. It's a little too generous. Yeah, I'll put her there. I think this is warranted. Next up, we have Emma Skye, and Emma Skye actually does do some things. During like the 30-40 minutes where Kay doesn't know who she is, Emma Skye fills the role of the teenage girl, and she gives Edgeworth some cool science tools, and she's just, I mean, like, when she shows up, it's like, whoa, you're also in this game. Nice. And it's like, her role is a bit bigger than Investigations 1. It's still kind of nothingy, but at least she helps out, and she's there in the final case as well, so I don't know. Like, I feel like I like Emma in the other games so much that it's like, I will say that having her presence is like a joy to see, even though, given that the text doesn't really do anything. I'll put her in low C tier. I'll put her above Larry, actually, just because it's like, she is minorly relevant, and she is just another member of Edgeworth's army of people that like Edgeworth in the end, and she helps with the fingerprint stuff. I don't know. It's super plot devicey, but it's like I feel like the creators at this point in time, because Rise from the Ashes, Apollo Justice, and then the 2 Investigations game kind of came out in a row. I feel like they were really pushing for Emma to be a more important character. And yeah, I think that in the fandom, I feel like Emma is someone that people really like, even though she's one of the few non-trilogy characters that people really like. I think it's her, Clavier, Apollo, and kind of Trucy, right? Who are the characters that we can attach to, even though they don't have the nostalgia benefit of the original trilogy. And I know Emma is technically in the original trilogy, but that was tacked on, so that's like an asterisk. She has an asterisk. But yeah, no, Emma again doesn't do much, but I mean, yeah, it's nice to see her. This is Lotta's swan song, and it's kind of weird to see that she has like reverse character development. She's no longer gonna be like a celebrity photographer or whatever, and then she kind of goes back in time. But it's so late in the game that it somehow turns around and becomes like, yeah, I like having a lot of heart here. A lot of heart is genuinely super, I wouldn't say interesting, but definitely, like, more relevant than usual. And I think that goes a long way. The fact that she helps out with the monster, with Gordy. We loop back around to the very first game with Gordy, and now we have Mozilla, so now she's like a supernatural photographer element again. And yeah, she does help, and I don't know, this is a lot of swan song, and I think that they could have done it so much worse, but they didn't. And like, I feel like, seeing as this is the end of her character, this is a pretty solid end to Lotta's story. I mean, okay, Lotta doesn't really have a story, she's just a gimmick, and a, goofy side character, but, I'm happy with how it ended, so I'm gonna say, yeah, I don't have any complaints for Lotta. I'll put her in C tier as well. I'll put her above Emma, because I feel like these 3 characters are the returning characters that you kind of need because this is the 10th anniversary, but, Lotta is the most useful and the most, like, she has emotions, unlike the others where they're just kind of there. Like, Lotta at least has a bit more complexity and are written a lot more solidly than the others. So, yeah, no, I mean, like, she feels a bit more real than Larry, who's just a goofball, and Emma, who's just a plot device, so that's nice. Next up, we have Penny, and Penny's going in F because I hate her. No, I'm kidding. Penny is useless. Penny is just there for... Okay, no, she's not useless, because it's nice to see her actually be the director now. That's nice development, and she just cares about John. She wants to go well. She's only important to the first, like, I want to say, like, 10% of that long 5th case, but I don't hate it. I like that she's I like that she's the director. That's pretty cool. I like that Edgeworth doesn't recognize her. That's really funny. I like how she's the most random character they could have brought back, but they brought her back. So yeah, I'm gonna put her in irrelevant tier, but I'll put her above Regina because at least, like, you know, I don't care about either of these characters, but I think because, like, whereas I have, like, oh, Regina's kind of annoying, Thought, Penny is just like, she's nothing, and so to see her again is nice. Like, it's nicer to go from nothing to, like, oh, that's nice, to I hate her, and oh, that's nice, because, like, I had no thoughts on Penny, but again, it's nice to see her as a director, I guess. And you know, I just think that seeing a character from a case that is more like than Big Top is also nicer. Like, if I saw, well, no, we do get to see, I really like the Stolen Turnabout, so if we saw Ron Delight and Desiree Delight, which we did, but they didn't have sprites and they weren't important at all, they were just a cameo. If they actually were a character with, like, a sprite in the game, like, I would probably rank them pretty high, even if they don't do anything, just because it's nice to see them again. Adrian Andrews has a cameo in the Stolen Turnabout, and even though she's not that important, it's not anywhere near as important as she was in Farewell My Turnabout, it's just really nice to see her again and see where her character went, how she's recovering. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going on this long tangent to justify why I'm putting Penny above Regina, but I don't know, it's just nice to see. And then why were you here? I thought, what the heck? Why are you here? Okay, whatever. Blaze to Best. He was more relevant to Case 4, and then the first, like, parts of Case 5. He is such a conniving asshole. He is such a jerk to his son. He is horribly abusive. He is horribly manipulative. He is, like, just this awful, awful person who just, you know, claws and gets Edgeworth kicked off the case, and he runs this secret black market thingy, and, you know, he sells off evidence, and he's, like, he's the reason why Manfred von Karma went crazy, basically. So it's like, God, this guy is, like, you think he's the mastermind behind the scenes, and he is, but then there's, you know, Simon Keyes, who's the even bigger mastermind. The thing is that Blaze the Best is just cartoonishly evil, and he has not a lot of depth, like, very, very little amount of depth. And in a game where you have characters like Horace Knightley, Simon Keyes, Sarandogan, Shelly the Killer, etc., etc., Blaze the Best kind of sticks out like a sore thumb because, like, yeah, I like having the idea of this cartoonishly evil bastard, basically, but can we give him a little depth, please? Like, I don't know. He's more of an idea than a character, if anything. He's more of an idea. And I'm only gonna put him higher than Patricia Rowland because at least he is, you know, more of something than Patricia Rowland, who is more of nothing, right? And I don't know where I'd put him. Above you. I put him here, actually, underneath Sarandogan, because at least Sarandogan has some, you know, depths and, you know, a bit of rehabilitation, and, you know, he doesn't like murdering anymore, except not really, and he believes in honor. Blaze the Best is just, like, I don't know, like, he works as someone to hate, but that's about it. Like, he is just someone to hate. There is no, at least with Manfred von Karma and Damon Gant, they have some backstory. Blaze the Best is just a bastard for the sake of being a bastard, and I guess it works because, you know, you can't, I guess you can't give everyone, you can't make everyone well written. I mean, I guess you can make everyone decently written, but, you know, he's more of an idea than an actual character. And when he does get taken down, it is satisfying. But that's more satisfying on Sebastian's behalf than his behalf. It's just, he is the dragon for Sebastian to slay. And I guess to an extent Simon as well. So yeah, I wish he was better. I wish, this is where I will say the game kind of like is like, whatever. It's like, I want to feel satisfaction over taking down a very clever and cunning bad guy, and, like, he's not dumb, but he's just not much of anything. He's just evil. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know much to say on this guy. Then we go to Will Powers, and Will Powers is okay. Will Powers is... Is it weird to say that he's probably more nothing than Penny? Because at least Penny is, like, she's a director now, she cares about John. Will Powers is just there. He's just there. And, like, I don't know why he needed a cameo. Well, okay, no, I can see why he had a cameo in the last case. Because, I mean, there's not a lot of, like, space everywhere else. And, like, yeah, he just adds to the character count. It's nice to see him. I like Will Powers, but it's like, he's nothing. It's so like we're already at the end of the game. It's like, oh yeah, here's another returning character, which is nice, but it's like, I don't know. I'm gonna put him below Penny. Like, I like him more than Penny, but at least Penny has something to do, where she's the director, she's taking care of John, she's taking care of the set. Well, I was just there. I'm gonna put him below Regina. It's interesting, because, like, out of these three characters, I like Penny the least, and Willpower's the best, but it's, like, the opposite way, because at least, we're basing this off of, the writing, and not, how competently written they are, in my opinion, and how much that appreciation I feel towards their iterations in this game. But like in this game, Willpower just goes below Penny, which is weird. But yeah. Next up we have John. I think John, for a character that we only really are introduced to in the 5th case, and I know he makes cameos in the 3rd and 4th case, but he only makes an appearance in the 5th case. He's okay. John's okay. Like, he's the token child character, he gets blamed a lot, and he has this big arc about his parents, about the president, who's his dad, you got the body double, who's his fake dad, you got Justine Courtney, who's his real mom, or his adoptive mom, and then, his real mom was killed, or whatever, and then, it just goes all over the place, and I think that he really fits the theme of parent and child. I think that he encapsulates it, in one of the best ways. I like John. I think John is cool, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like, on one hand, he's, like, introduced a little too late to really care about him a lot, but at the same time, I feel like he's introduced at the perfect amount of time. And I feel like if he was introduced way earlier, it might have lessened the impact. So yeah, it's crazy to me that there's so many characters that are introduced in the last case, because the last case feels like a great culmination finale, and yet there's still enough time to introduce, John. Well, I guess they don't need to introduce Penny and Will, because 1, they're not that important, and 2, we already know who they are. But John's entire story is really begins and wrapped up in that last case. Now, I like the dynamics he has. I like the character and the overarching, what's the word I'm looking for? What he goes through is when he realizes that his dad was murdered, and that, Justine Courtney is his adoptive mom, and that, he's a child actor who's, like, short and looks like a baby and all that stuff, and that he can get revenge, but he doesn't get revenge on Seren Dogan. He doesn't kill Seren Dogan, and, it's just, for such a last-minute character, I feel like they did a really, really good job, and I feel like he was very much deserving of being the last character introduced in this game, because, like, I guess it's kind of a reveal that Justine Courtney has a son that she really cares about. So yeah, no, I'm gonna put John in A tier, and maybe people will disagree with that. Like, I think he's okay, but I think that the story that he goes through is really compelling, and I do actually think that, I'm gonna put him the highest in A tier. I don't think he's S, but he's definitely A tier. I think that, for being the last character introduced, it's kind of shocking how important he is, to the story. So yeah, John Marsh, good boy, going A tier. Next up, we have the major characters. Oh boy, as if this video wasn't long enough, we still got to talk about all these goons. So where do we even begin? Well, I know where I'm gonna begin. I'm gonna take a short break here. Hey everyone, welcome back to the third break, or I guess the second break that I took, the third installment. I had to get some water, I was losing my voice, and I was getting kind of tired. But here we are, we got the 8, like, major-ish characters, and now we're gonna rank them. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So first we got Sebastian the Best. He has a different name in Japanese, but, I mean, it doesn't matter. 3 of these guys are new, 5 of these are returning from either the trilogy or Investigations 1. Sebastian is one of the new ones, and I think he is, by far, one of the best, as the name implies, I didn't even mean to make that pun, one of the best characters. I'm gonna put him above Simon, honestly. I think he is, okay, no, that's too generous. I'm gonna put him underneath Simon, just because I think that, like, while I do like his arc, it's very, like, kind of simplistic, where you think he's this dope, this kind of idiotic, stupid prosecutor who's just like a kid, but then, like, the deeper you go, the more you realize that he does have a very tragic backstory, whereas he was just not good at school, and his dad is very abusive, and was always verbally horrible to him. Turns out that he is a competent guy. It's just he has a lot of problems and he needs guidance. He never really had guidance in his life from his dad. So Edgeworth offers to guide him, and it's just very sympathetic character where it's like you think at first he's like kind of this idiot, but later on it's like, oh damn, he has like so much more to him. And it's like this redemption arc where his mental health and self-esteem is so low because of how he's treated, and it's really heartbreaking stuff when you finally realize that this character that you've like either thought was annoying or you hated all game is super tragic, and like he's super lovable. I think that logic chess moment might be one of the best, moments in the whole game, out of a game that's so awesome, just to see Edgeworth help out this poor chap. And I don't know, it's just super satisfying. It's probably, just to have this lovable doofus turn out to be super tragic is not like a new thing. I think this is the first time they do an Ace Attorney though, and they do it so well because Sebastian is such a cute and honorable and lovable heroic figure, and to just see him so down in the dumps and eventually, go against his father and be like, no, Dad, I'm sorry. That's it. I'm sorry, Dad. This is it, and goodbye. Or whatever. Sebastian really is one of my favorite characters in almost anything, really. It's just so... He's just so lovable, man. You gotta love him. He's so, like, annoying, and... Like, I get if you don't like him. If you don't like him, he's annoying, he can be kind of whiny, and he's kind of stupid, but it's like, his little arc at the end is really beautiful. And yeah, like, he does disappear for the second half of the finale. Like, he's actually absent for the entire ending of the finale, which is really weird that they would do that to such a big character. But I think, like, when Sebastian and Simon, they kind of, like, interchange roles in the finale. I feel like he's important in the first half, and he's important for the second half. But, I think that's why I like the finale. It's so good because of these two guys, and I'm so grateful that they I got to voice both of them, and that they just exist. I'm so happy that we have these two lovable doofuses. One being, is devoid of his evil dad, and the other just kind of unintentionally encapsulates all about the evilness of his own dad. So yeah, that's Sebastian for you. I don't really know what else there's to say other than he does not get as much attention as he deserves. For being one of the best characters in the game, he deserves to be in so many things. And I know there was a recent 20th anniversary art where he was only like added as like kind of an afterthought or whatever, but it's like, god dang, we need more Sebastian representation. He needs to come back. If any of these characters is going to come back in the mainline trilogy, it needs to be him. Even if his name is something really stupid like Donnie the Delightful or whatever. Dead Delightful. I don't know. He needs to come back because he's so good. Like we need Sebastian. Now immediately we pivot into Franziska, who is really kind of an afterthought. I feel like she's in this game kind of not because she's important, but just because she has to. Like if we're gonna bring like Lang and Franziska, I feel like they're a bigger presence in the first game, which is a shame because the first game is so crappy. And even then, Franziska's role in the first game just isn't much of anything. She's brought back here in the fourth case, and by the time she shows up, it's like, oh yeah, you're here. And it's like, the stuff with Edgeworth is not as interesting as it was in the past. Now granted, it's been 4 games since she was introduced, so it's like, yeah, it's getting... Not only is it old, but I feel like her and Edgeworth are beginning to really accept one another. And it's like, she has some text about her father. I feel like she's here to really provide commentary over the whole father-child thing, which is such a shame because I feel like she's probably one of the best characters to just be this vessel to talk about the father and child, or I guess parent and child dynamics, and you don't get that because obviously you don't want to spoil Manfred von Karma, what he did in the first Ace Attorney game. But it's like, like she encapsulates the themes. There are times where she talks about the legacy of a father and how they treat the children and whatever. And I think that's great because it really does. This is really when Franziska shows some growth. I feel like in the other games it's there, but she hides it so internally. But here it's the most apparent that she is actually growing as a character, and I think that is great. It's also the last time we see her. But I think that for being such a static-y character, I feel like this is a decent way to end. I just wish these are more. I feel you have the perfect character who is part of the main cast, who not the main cast, but of the main trilogy cast, and it doesn't like go anywhere. Yeah, she can't really interact with Manfred, and she can't say a whole lot. But I feel like if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna make this whole story parent and child themed, like have Francisca do something. Like, oh my god, imagine if, oh god, she would probably be like 2 years old, but like having like a baby Francisca in the cupcake case, you know, in the flashback, where it's like maybe Gregory Edgeworth comments, so Manfred Okama has a daughter of his own, something like that. That would be amazing. But I'm gonna have to give her B again, just like in the previous tier list. I'm gonna put her below Dogen, but above Blaze the Best, because it's like she's here and she helps out, but I feel like out of her 4 appearances, this is by far the most forgettable, which is saying a lot because Ace Attorney Investigations is super forgettable. But at least there, because there are less characters, she stands out more. Here, she's just kind of there. Like when she shows up, she's just there, and like yeah, like we kind of need her because like this is the 10th anniversary. This is Edgeworth's game. We kind of need Francisca, but it's like she like I don't know, like. I like that she's around. It's sort of like Penny Nichols, Will Powers, Emma Skye. It's like I like that she's around, but for being such a big character, she doesn't have a lot to do. I like Francisca, but it's like, please, can she do something next time, please? Like especially because her whole story is so coded around parents and children, and it's like it goes nowhere. Like in a game where that's themed around parents and children. Justine Courtney, I think that a lot of people find her very divisive. I think. And not just because I think she's attractive, but I think that she's very good character. And you can find her annoying. You can find her really bossy, really mean at times, really conceited, really one note because she always believes the law. But once she starts having that one sprite where she's like hyperventilating about John, and especially in the 5th case where she thinks he's kidnapped and she does care about him, and her backstory is revealed. And even in the 4th case when she does talk to Edgeworth about the badge thing, you realize that Courtney's not a bad person. Neither is she part of the evil people, and neither is she even malicious. Like, she's doing this to discover the Blaze the Best's intentions. And, like, this game is so bloated with characters. I feel like Justine Courtney kind of falls to the wayside, In the beginning cases, it's like she's built up as going to be this big opposing force, and then by the end of it, she's just kind of there. But I do like Justine Courtney. I think that she's very effective. She's the first, is she the first female rival in this? I guess other than Francisca in Justice for All, she's really the first female rival. And unlike Francisca, who kind of disappears in the final case, other than the ending, Justine Courtney's here to stay. And while her importance does kind of get diminished by the end, where Sebastian gets this big closure, I feel like Justine is like, she's still there, but it kind of just diminishes because other characters are more important. Let me get a drink of water real quick. Yeah, no, I like Courtney, even though, there are flaws. And yeah, just like Sebastian, it can be like, oh, she's so annoying in the first parts, and by the end, it's a little less justified than Sebastian. And it's like, yeah, she is an opposing force to Edgeworth, and I feel like she does kind of pad the game, but just like, I can't hate her, man. I have to put her in A tier. I'm gonna put her in the highest A tier. Like, I'm not gonna say she's perfect, because she's not. Horace Knightley is tier above her, though. Now I'm thinking about Horace Knightley. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna keep Horace Knightley there. Screw you guys. Justine Courtney, I'm gonna put her in high A tier. I think that despite all the flaws, I think that what she represents, especially because she's like a judge as well, she's a mother, she cares about her son, she's a rival to Edgeworth. There's just so many things, and you want to know her more. And yeah, I wish her and Sebastian got more representation outside of this game. I wish that in like a stage play or in merchandise, we would see more of these two. If there ever is an Ace Attorney Investigations 3, the very, very, very low chance of that happening, I want to see these two back. Like, please, bring them back. Like, they don't deserve to just be in one game. These characters are so memorable and iconic, and just like, they serve a function that no other characters have done in the past and will do in the future. And it's such a shame that we just they kind of go away. Like, they could easily run their own series. That's how good they are. Like, I can't say that about a lot of characters, but like, we could have Ace Prosecutor Sebastian DeBest. We could have Ace Judge Justine Courtney. I guess we could have Ace Prosecutor Francisca Von Karma. And it's like, oh man, like, I don't think a Lang game or a Raymond Shields game would work, but these two, it's like, oh man. Next we have our buddy Uncle Ray, and I feel like the criticism that Judge Courtney kind of stopped being relevant by the end of Case 5 is kind of exemplified with this guy, where he's introduced in Case 2, and his arc really concludes in Case 3, so for the next two cases, he's just kind of there as a cheerleader. to bring up maybe Gregory, or just to help Edgeworth in a tough situation, or just to give hugs and stuff. Maybe a little bit of comic relief. Like his importance really goes away, and like I can understand these two, their importance goes away in case 5, but that's the end of the game. His investigation, sorry, his relevance goes away in case 3, and it's weird because it's like they could have padded it out a little bit, or just given him a little bit to do. Like I like him as like a representation of the past, and yeah, no, I mean like when you get those moments in case 3, it's beautiful, but it's like it ends too early, because now he has nothing to do for the rest of the game. And I like him in those 2 cases, but it's like, I don't know, it feels, and it's weird to say because like this is easily like 15 hours, which could easily be, okay, I think the first Ace Attorney game is like maybe 14, 15, 16 hours, and case 2 and 3 of this game are about like 15, 16 hours as well. So like, I don't know, it's weird to say that he, you know, doesn't have a lot of screen time, because he really, really does, but, you know, proportionately to how long the game is, it's like, I wish he had more. So, like, I can't deny the first, you know, case 2 and 3, his roles in them, more so case 3 than case 2, but he has a lot of promise, but it doesn't really go anywhere in the second case. Like, he can bring up, like, Edgeworth used to be a disciple of Von Karma, what happened to you, you're a traitor, but it doesn't really go anywhere, and his philosophies on Gregory are, like, they're there, but they don't affect the story as well as they could, right? So I don't know. For being, like, he has a lot of potential as a character, but I feel like I'm gonna put him in B tier because I think he is just that good, but I'm gonna put him on top of, I'm gonna put him high B tier. Yeah, I'll put him high B tier. I think he is justified, as we need that support role who is really a medium for Gregory Edgeworth, because he gets to know both the son and the father, which is nice. But I mean, again, they could have done a bit better with him. I like him, but they could have done better. And I feel like of the 3 new characters, he's the least, like, he stops being relevant the earliest, and I feel like he's the least memorable. I feel like you remember Courtney and Sebastian a lot better. Next up we have Lang, and Lang, whereas I wanted him to get more screen time in the first game, here I feel like him and Francisca are both just like, hey, remember the first game? With Francisca also being, hey, well, remember the trilogy. Lang is like, he shows up in the 5th case, we get Zhengfa lore, and we get more lore about his father and where he comes from, which is great, because he really missed it in the first game. Lang he has a supporting role in this game, very supporting role, and he's here to help, but also kind of annoy Edgeworth, which is okay, I guess. I don't know where I'd put Lang, honestly. I would... Where would I put Lang? I don't know. Like, there's not a lot. I like the guy. He's a lot of fun. But, I can't rank him that high. I'm gonna rank him above Francisca, because at least the Zhengfa stuff is a bit more relevant. I'm gonna rank him... I'll rank him below Dogen. I'd rank him here. B tier. Yeah, no, again, he really needed screen time, and him without Sheena is, I guess, kind of interesting. He doesn't have as much relevance this time around, but he's still the same guy, roughly. Just, you know, you can tell that the finale of the first game has really affected him, with how, you know, his men aren't nearly as relevant anymore, but he's still a caring, like, lone wolf kind of guy, so I don't know. B tier for sure. Then we have Kay Faraday, who, her arc was completed in the finale of Game 1, which is such a shame, again, because Game 1 is so bad, so it's like, Lang, Francisca, and Kay really are negatively affected, but I'm actually going to switch Gumption Edgeworth. Let's talk about Edgeworth last. Kay is really solid in this game. A lot of her dialogue is kind of boring this time around. Like, she's not as quirky or interesting because she doesn't have to. She really has no stakes in the game other than, hey, remember last game she was the assistant? Now she's back. I don't even think Little Thief is used. No, you know, it's used like a few times, that's for sure. But, you know, the relevance to Yatagarasu, and she has a little plot of wanting to find new members. It doesn't really go anywhere. Like, she doesn't even really try other than one time. And at the end of the game, it's like, oh yeah, remember that Yatagarasu plot? Oh yeah, I remember that. She was trying to recruit members. Like, she's still fun. Like, she's not fun. But she's not important anymore. The only time she's really important is in that fourth case when she loses her memories. And yeah, I mean, that is powerful stuff. I like Kay in that one case. Um, and then like, you know, it's very emotional, and it's just, you get whiplash because like Kay's just been kind of like a prop the whole game. So for her to have such an emotional, you know, such big stakes, like, who did this to you, Kay? Who did this to you? It's so, it really motivates you to find the culprit, because like at the end of the day, um, Edgeworth really does care about Kay, and it's a nice juxtaposition with Phoenix and Maya, because as I said, Phoenix is more optimistic than Edgeworth, that's for sure. So to have this really goofy sidekick and this like very stoic guy, like, I don't know why they work together, because they really should. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of weird that Edgeworth and Kay are like a duo, because like I feel like they don't have a whole lot of chemistry. She's kind of like a manic pixie dream girl that's not like a romantic interest, because it's like, what's interesting about Edgeworth? He's so like blah. It's like you're so hyper around this guy who's so blah. But I really like. A lot of people are like, Kay's boring, but it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess she doesn't do much, but it's nice to have some flavor, I guess. It's nice to have someone around. Like, it's not offensive. Like, I can't put her in A tier. No, I will put her in A tier, because it's like, yeah, she does involve some brevity. It's mostly just, hey, I want to steal this, I want to steal this, I want to steal this. But it is some necessary brevity and just, you know, all around positivity, and someone for Edgeworth to roll off of with all the kooky characters in the game. So I'm gonna put Kay in. Put her in A tier. I'll put her below Judge Courtney, because like, she's relevant in that one case, and then that's really about it. But I don't know, just to have this nice supporting character, who's essentially the tritagonist, is interesting. And yeah, like, game one was really Kay's game, kind of, which is weird because she doesn't appear in the first half. And game 2 is really Edgeworth's game. So, yeah, they swap roles, where Edgeworth is just here to support Kay in game 1. Now here Kay is here to support Edgeworth, and that's really nice, I guess. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, if you're looking for Kay's backstory, you're not gonna get it in this game, but I mean, she's just fun. Gumshoe, on the other hand, this is probably the least Gumshoe you get, and it's very sad, because we all love Gumshoe, we all want him to be important, but because of the sheer amount of characters, Gumshoe, unfortunately, has to not be a big role in this game. He gets a raise, which is awesome. He's relevant in the first case, and I guess parts of the second case, but after that, he's on and off. Gumshoe's on and off. Despite being what you would consider the main trio of the game, Edgeworth, Gumshoe, and Kay, he's not that important in this game. He's just there to bring stuff whenever necessary, and like he's always funny, but I feel like this is when he has the least amount to say, because he's not super present, and I can't fault him. I have to judge him based on. I'm still gonna put him in A because it's Gumshoe, but in terms of importance, he's not that important. Like, I'm actually gonna put him. I want to put him underneath John. He's the one character that really doesn't have the whole father-child thing going on. I feel like every other character, maybe not Shelly the Killer, but pretty much every other character has that going for them. I guess he does have that with Detective Bad. He's kind of like a father to Gumshoe, but I mean, they don't interact because Detective Bad's only in the flashback. So yeah, I mean, like, he's again, he feels like a leftover, similar to Francisca, but I mean, again, Francisca is always written kind of weirdly, but Gumshoe, it's very hard to mess up Gumshoe. It's very, very hard to mess up Gumshoe, and yeah, that's really all there is to it. I don't know why I'm rambling for much longer, because Gumshoe, despite being the second to last person ranked, he doesn't have a lot to do. Meanwhile, we have Edgeworth, and I think that out of all the games, this is the one game where I feel like the protagonist is super important. Like, every case is so important to him. Well, maybe not the first one, but the every other case is like, it strongly has to do with Edgeworth. Third one has to do with his dad, of course. The second one has to do with like jail and maybe the people he's arrested and what it means to be a prosecutor. And then Ray shows up, and then Justine Courtney shows up, etc., etc. You know, the fourth case has to do with Kay and his emotional relationship to that. And the fifth case, well, okay, maybe not the fifth case, but it is the grand finale, and you do kind of need some kind of stuff. But for the most part, this really is the prosecutor's path. You know, he loses his badge, and he has to decide whether or not he wants to continue being a prosecutor or not, whether or not this is the right thing for him. And I think that having this internal debate, this internal struggle inside of him, it's like, this is the one time that the protagonist is actually super relevant to the story of the game. Like this, a lot of this has to do with this development of what it means to be a prosecutor. And yeah, in the end, he decides to continue being a prosecutor. The status quo is still the same, but he comes out changed. And like, yeah, it's a shame that this is the last time we see him until a big time skip in the timeline. But I think that for a final hurrah, not just for the character of Edgeworth, but just for everything in the 2016 to 2019 timeline, this is a very appropriate send-off. And I think that, you know, while I wish we could have had some kind of Phoenix representation, I think that, you know, ending with the most popular character of this unintentional 5-game tetralogy, you know, the trilogy and then the Investigations duology, I think that this game does it very well. And Edgeworth, you know, while he is written like, you know, a bit too much like a superhero at times, the big cheerleading squad, I think that Edgeworth is, you can't go wrong with Edgeworth. I'm not going to place him the highest, but he's definitely going in S tier, above Shelly the Killer, that's for sure. Third best character of the game. And I think a lot of the reason why the game works, if you don't consider Miles a robot, of course, is because it really does involve him. Now, whether or not you care about this stuff is up to you, but I think that being able to thematically tie so much of the story and just, you know, themes to the protagonist goes a long way. It's better than last game where he has nothing to do. Here, a lot of it has to do with him. Like, a lot of it is very directly personal to him. So yeah, here's my tier list of the Investigations 2 game, and yeah, a lot of them are B or higher. And it's like, unlike the other game where it's like, I feel like they're very poorly, I feel like only 2 are like, not written, you know, they aren't perceived as well as maybe the writer intended, but for the most part, I feel like everyone here, you know, is very appropriately written. Like, some of them could have been a little better, but at the end of the day, I can't complain with what we have. It's the third best Ace Attorney game, in my opinion, and yeah, I have no complaints, so please let me know what you think. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, I don't know. This is my list of all the characters, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.